The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
The second person who you see, who is instantly confrontational with Mr. Efron, is the defendant, Mr. Mayers. At the time that he was pointing the gun at Mr. Efron, he was also threatening Mr. Efron. I'm going to kill you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this case is about one man's jealousy, lies, and greed. And that man is not Rocky.
Counsel continues. Stop. Whatever. Stop. No speaking objections.
The trial of rapper ASAP Rocky is off to a rocky start. The prosecution starting off slowly, but the defense coming out swinging. We're getting you all caught up before court resumes. And we've got a traffic stop shooting caught on camera. A man is shot by his own pistol as an officer is removing it from his pants. We'll show you the stunning video. And also this hour, a new law in Arizona is trying to prevent future gang activity, like the one police say killed 16-year-old Preston Lord. Plus, the Ponzi scheme murder trial is back this morning. Could an emotional Natalie Cochran taking the stand tip the scales for the defense? It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Monday morning to you. I hope you had a great weekend. This is Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. I say the show's kind of like coffee and court because it's morning time. We get all warmed up together and ready to go for the big day ahead on Court TV Live. So let's start it off like we always do. Go ahead, grab that cup of coffee right now. It's time for my opening statement. A friendship, a feud, and a firearm. Those are the three things rapper ASAP Rocky's trial is about. On November 6th, 2021, the friendship between ASAP Rocky and his fellow crew member ASAP Relly turned into a feud that culminated in Hollywood, California with a firearm. Fortunately, both men are alive today. The question for the jury is whether there was anything criminal that happened during that altercation. Now, what I just did was a little sampling of the first part of an opening statement. In just a few sentences, you know the story, right? So I'm going into professor mode a little bit this morning, my friends, because I was stunned at how inefficient and ineffective the prosecutor was in telling their story. He basically tried the case in his open. He was getting into the frame-by-frame details of the videos in the open. It's an open. Don't overcomplicate it. When I teach opening statements to my students, I tell them to tell me what happened, tell me a great story, and do it in 10 minutes. And guess what? The students learn that it's got to grab the jury's attention fast, and it's got to be better than the other side's story. In this case, the defense, led by attorney Joe Tacopina, told a much better story than the state. I knew within 2 minutes what the story was about. He was saying it was about lies and greed. He painted the alleged victim as a money-hungry liar. And we didn't get to see much of the evidence in this case, so my friends, I'm reserving any judgments on the facts just yet. But judging only the opening statements, I say that Rocky's defense team hands down won the day. That is my opening statement this morning. Let me know if you like it. Right now, I want to give you your daily docket.
Did he like to go to hospitals?
No, he hated them.
What did he tell you about these hospitals?
He considered them to be a waste of his time and that he never wanted to be in one again.
In West Virginia, we've got the Ponzi scheme murder trial for Natalie Cochran starting up at 9 a.m. this morning. She is expected to take the stand. That should be good. In Massachusetts, we've got Penelope McGee with a pretrial hearing at 9 a.m. She has been accused of the crime of manslaughter in the death of her ex-husband. We're following that one closely. And in California, the case I was just talking about, we got motions set to be heard in the trial of ASAP Rocky. It's going to start up at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And that is, of course, our top story this morning. The state says that ASAP Rocky, whose real name is Rakeem Mayers, started a fight and fired a gun, a real gun, so they say. The defense is calling his case a money grab.
Mr. Efron will tell you that during the period of time that they are off screen is when the defendant first produces that semi-automatic pistol from his waistband. That at the time that he was pointing the gun at Mr. Efron, he was also threatening Mr. Efron. I'm gonna kill you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this case is about one man's jealousy, lies, and greed. And that man is not Rocky Griffin. That man is Terrell Efron, or you've heard the name, Relly. He's the source of all the evidence in this case, all that the prosecution is going to rely on. He's the source of all the evidence. The two assaults you're going to hear about in this case were both committed by this Relly. Both.
All right, so let's talk about this case. Let's dig in. What did you think? Tweet us your thoughts. Whose open did you like better? And we've only heard from one witness so far, and he's got a big connection to a reality TV star. So let's talk about that as well. Let's bring in our power panel. With me, entertainment commentator Holland Reed is here. We've also got former prosecutor. He put away Susan Smith. He's also a retired SLED agent and lawmaker, now attorney Tommy Pope. And we've got retired criminal defense attorney and author famously saved Jodi Arias' life, attorney Kirk Nurmi. Good morning to you all. Let's start a bit, if we can, with how the prosecution did. Tommy Pope, I want to go to you on this. What did you think of them on day one?
I think you were spot on. You get too much in the weeds. You know, I saw in just that little clip the defense, even though he was reading his notes and maybe his delivery wasn't the best, you know, it's about money and greed, and all the evidence come from one man. You know, if the prosecution hadn't told a different story and a believable story, they've dug a hole. Not that they can't overcome it, but as your viewers know, the prosecution's got the burden of proof. So we have to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. The last thing you want to do is feel like you're digging down a hole. But I've seen, Julie, like you said, teaching, I've seen a lot of young prosecutors feel like they have to deliver the whole case. I always called it a preview of coming attractions. You know, if you're going to hear the whole preview, you don't have to watch the movie anymore, you know. And so, you know, with respect to that prosecutor, let's give him a chance to do his job. But I think he's starting in a little bit of a hole with the jury.
Exactly. I love that analogy, Tommy. It's like the preview to the movie. It's not the whole movie. It's not a screening of the entire thing. But I like that, the preview of the coming attractions. Kirk Nurmi, looking at the defense side, let's go there next. What did you think of their story? You know, they're saying that this wasn't a real gun. They're owning the fact that on that video, Rocky's seen with a gun in his hands. They're not denying that, but they're saying it was a prop gun. His buddy knew it, and he looked to sue him civilly and had to go to police in order to get that case going. What do you say to that?
Well, I think it seems that all of that is going to be supported by the evidence. At least, you know, his going to the attorney, the alleged victim going to the attorney, filing a civil suit, things of that nature. But let's back up a little bit. Go to that jealousy, lies, and greed that we talked about in the opening statement. Because one of the things that I would do when I was advising young attorneys is to try to filter it down to that one sentence, because and certain themes, because what does that do? That gives the jury glasses, lenses to view the evidence that's coming forward. And now this jury, based on this opening statement, is going to be looking at every piece of evidence, thinking, is it motivated by jealousy, lies, or greed? So every bit of evidence that we talk about, every bit of evidence that's going to come on the case is going to go through this filter. The state hasn't provided a filter. The state hasn't provided a theme, a hook. It was rambling. It wasn't even coming attractions, really. So, you know, right now, the jury, and it's so important, first impressions, right? And everything's going to be filtered through those themes. And that's why I think the defense is going to come out on top in the end.
Yes, I think that's a smart prediction, Kirk. Thank you for that. Holland Reed, last but not least, saved a special question for you, the Hollywood interest. So we know there's a lot of big names in this case. We know Joe Tacopina represented President Donald Trump. We know that John Lewin, the deputy DA who's lead on this case, not the prosecutor who opened, but one of them sort of running things, Prosecutor Robert Durst, he's well known. And we know that the first witness up is the son of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills star Erica Jane, Sergeant Thomas Zizzo, first witness up. I want to play a little clip from him because it had a lot of Real Housewives and Bravo fans excited to see him giving his testimony. Let's take a look.
You were searched for signs of shooting, right? Correct. You didn't find any broken glass? No. No damage scores? No. No bullet holes? No. You established no show cases? Correct. No blood? Correct. In fact, you didn't find any signs of shooting, right? Correct.
You know, police can only do so much. One thing I took away was he was saying we rely on the public's help. So, Holland, I would think that his mama, Erica Jane, would be very proud of him for the service work that he does and for doing his best to gather evidence after this incident. Your thoughts, please.
So my thoughts are this is Hollywood. This happened in Hollywood, the heart of Hollywood. A$AP Rocky is partners with Rihanna. We know that these two gentlemen have been friends for 19 years. They started a collective together. And along the way, again, like everyone else on this panel has said, jealousy, money, fame, greed. This, I believe, is absolutely a money grab. That young man, A$AP Relly, walked away from A$AP Rocky during this altercation. So A$AP Rocky walked away from him and Relly went after him. So he didn't seem to be in fear of his life in any way. It didn't seem to be anything other than a feud gone wrong. And then after the fact, him texting him immediately after asking for money. And the prosecutor, like everyone else has said, laid it out honestly for the defense to just say, well, we're telling the same story here. So it's a Hollywood feud, a friendship feud, a money grab gone too far, and I think Hollywood or the entertainment community wants it to be over with. This happened almost 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago, and it's just gone on too long, and I don't think it was as serious as they're claiming it to be.
Well, that's interesting, Holland. You know, yeah, a follow-up here, because when we think about the injuries, right, the alleged victim has injuries to his knuckles. That's it. So it's either one of two things. It's either that A$AP Rocky's a really bad shot and the bullets grazed him, or he didn't shoot him at all. He's got a prop gun like the defense says, and this guy scraped him somehow himself. Are people talking about the injuries, Holland? Are you hearing that in the entertainment community?
Yes, they are, and they're saying it's almost like it's laughable, and not to dismiss the severity of gun violence in any way whatsoever. And if this was a situation, of course, this is what the trial is for. But it's almost a joke because they did not get into this major scuffle. This was this was just a scuffle. This wasn't some major incident where people were a shootout on Hollywood Boulevard. And it was a scuffle between two friends, and it just went too far, and I think it's gone too far with this trial.
Excellent points and insight, Holland. Thank you for all of that. Tommy Pope, let me go to you, please. You've seen a lot in your career investigating cases. You're certainly adept at firearms. What do you think about this? Do you think it's a wound from a gunshot?
I was thinking there were some forensics to be had, or at least some explanations to be given, because I was wondering, where's the gunpowder residue? Again, I'm not a defense attorney, but you often hear, there's no gunpowder residue, and there's plenty of reasons. It can be wiped off, it can be washed off, but it'd be interesting to know if it was tested. And then the casings, the first thing I'd want to know is, where did the victim recover the casings? Did he document it in any way? In law enforcement, we document it before we even touch it, and then we package it, and then we keep it in a chain of custody. It'd be interesting to know where he said it came, and then to go back to the officers that were searching and say, did you look under so-and-so bush or wherever he says he located them? That would be very telling, I think, from because I'm tended to agree just on the little bit I know. It sounds like he's fishing for something, and nothing worse than being a prosecutor who's charged with seeking the truth and proving a case beyond a reasonable doubt, to have a victim that maybe even you're questioning, and that can be very difficult to prosecute. And that might be why the opening statement wasn't all fire and brimstone. Maybe the prosecutor's having some difficulty with it.
Oh, that's a really good point, Tommy. Thank you. I really appreciate your comments, too, about the gunshot residue. Where is that? Thank you for that. Kirk Nurmi, tell me, so we have this alleged victim who picks up the spent cartridge casings, allegedly. This is the state side of the story. He picks them up and then turns them in. And that's why we see, when we saw first witness, Sergeant Thomas Zizzo, we just talked about him, Erica Jane's son, testifies that when he responds, he doesn't see any evidence of spent cartridge casings. Kirk, how problematic do you think this is going to be from the state that this A$AP Relly recovers them, allegedly, and not one of the police officers who were looking to do so?
Well, I'm excited to see this morning that Tommy's got a little defense attorney in him. I think he can pull it off. He hit some of those. He hit some of those key points, because what I would be doing with the officer, every single officer, is the thoroughness of their check, how important it is to look for evidence everywhere, and how this is a serious offense or accusation. And you look for all this evidence, and you do the best you can, officer, don't you? You make sure that no stone goes unturned. And of course the officer is going to say yes. You do that with every officer. And then ultimately, ASAP Relly is going to take the stand and say, and he's going to tell his story, and you've got fertile ground for cross-examination. Where did you get these? Where did it come from? Where did you pick these up, et cetera, et cetera? And you've got all these officers that you can potentially recall as well and say, no, we searched that area. There was nothing there. So that's going to be a key avenue. You're going to want to point the victim down. And then maybe even if you're the defense, recall those cops who really can become defense witnesses because they objectively investigated this, and Mr. Relly is instead going for this money grab.
Excellent points, Kirk. Thank you for that. Holland, I want to go back to you and talk about Rihanna, please, because there's the great Rihanna debate, right? She's beloved. She's a megastar, billionaire. She's A$AP Rocky's longtime partner, the mother of their two boys, and she wasn't there on day one. Should she be there? You know, there's the great debate, right? Should she or shouldn't she? What do you think fans want to see from her?
I love Rihanna. The last thing I want to do is see her in a courtroom for something like this. I don't believe she had anything to do with it. I believe the only thing probably that she might have to do with it is the money grab situation. He knows, I mean, A$AP has his own money, his own businesses, and his own right, but Rihanna is a part of the jealousy aspect along the way. Again, this was a collective that everyone has been successful, but A$AP Rocky is the one that has stood out, and that has been a problem with these two, Relly and A$AP Rocky, for years, and that's why all of this boiled to a head. So Rihanna needs to stay out of the way like she's done for tens of years, all these decades now. She has not put out an album. We don't want to see her unless she has an album coming out. We want her to stay in her lane. She is wonderful, she is beautiful, and she is such a woman of great stature. We want her not a part of this nonsense.
Really appreciate that. Excellent points. We'll see if she shows up just to support her man. Certainly, there's never been any allegation that she had anything to do with any of this. So I want to make that abundantly clear. You never know if she may want to show up and just be there to show her support, or maybe it's best that she stay home. Holland Reed, you know, we love having you on this program. Thank you for weighing in. We'll have you back soon. Take good care.
Absolutely.
When we come back here on Opening Statements, here's what we've got for you.
I appreciate that being very honest.
Oh, you're all right. You okay? Hey. Put the gun down. Put it down. You okay? You got shot in the leg.
Shocking video of an officer apparently accidentally shooting a man in the leg with a man's own gun. We'll show you how it happened. And later, defendant Natalie Cochran could be on the stand today. Could tears, like you see right there, tip the scales of justice?
The Court TV podcast will return.
As alleged, the defendants used their wealth and positions to create and facilitate opportunities to sexually assault women. In particular, Oren and Tal Alexander allegedly used their prominent positions in the real estate industry to induce women to come to events and parties.
Oh, this is some really messed up allegations. So let's talk about these defendants, the Alexander brothers. These guys have a brand new home, but it is a far cry from the luxurious real estate background that they have. The trio's new digs are what's trending in true crime. Twins Oren and Alan, along with their older brother Tal, are now being held in the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. Sound familiar? It should. It's the same facility. It's a federal jail. Currently holding Luigi Mangione and Sean Diddy Combs. So here's some fast facts on the MDC. The facility houses about 1,200 detainees. Detainees have long complained about rampant violence there and dreadful conditions. The brothers were extradited from Miami to New York and accused of running an illegal sex trafficking ring. So this morning we're asking, are there any safety concerns for these high-profile detainees? Let's bring in our legal eagles. Still with me, Tommy Pope and Kirk Nurmi. Okay, let's talk about it here. Kirk, tell me, if any of these guys are your clients, any of them, the Alexanders, Diddy, Luigi, take your pick, would you be concerned about their safety in that facility?
Well, you know, as a defense attorney, you can only do so much. Your hands are tied. You're kind of left with what the officials deal with, what the jailhouse officials deal with, right? But ultimately, yes, you're going to have those concerns. To make sure you voice those, you have to go through the judge. You can't go directly to the corrections department, what have you. You're going to have conditions of confinement. Make sure you have access and try to make sure you do all you can to make sure your client is safe. Now, celebrities, one thing, like, I got to admit, I had no idea who these guys were before these charges came forward. There's probably a lot of people in the jail that have no idea who these guys are, but celebrity isn't a currency in jail, but cash is, right? And if they're known as people that have cash, money, maybe a word gets around, then the safety concerns become more prominent. With someone like Diddy, of course, the safety concerns are right there up front, and you're going to want to do all you can through the court to try to make sure you have both access to your client as well as that they are safe. And we've seen that through Diddy's counsel.
Yeah, great points, Kirk. Thank you for that. Tommy, I think what everybody wonders, are these guys going to cross paths? You know, especially as soon as Luigi hit the jail, everybody's going, oh, he's in the same jail as Diddy. Will they see each other? And now we got the Alexanders there, too. What do you think the odds are that these guys might actually meet or form a friendship?
I think it's really according to their detention level. I used to say if I ever ended up in prison, I wanted to be in solitary confinement and just give me a book and keep me safe, you know, because I think, you know, but a lot of interaction takes place. They have, you know, they may have the pod structure like we had here in York County, you know, where you have individual cells, but you have group areas. You may have certain times you rotate together. So it's very likely. It was interesting, too. I wonder if they're keeping the brothers apart because, you know, you look at the guys, they look to be decent sized guys. You think at least if you had your two brothers with you in the same block, that would be helpful from a protection standpoint. But I don't know. You know, I would say for them, as heinous as their crimes are, they're lucky they're not crimes against children because those seem to be the ones who get jailhouse justice the quickest.
Excellent points, Tom. I really like what you said about wonder if they're housed near each other. We'll have to try to work to get an answer to that one and share it another day. Let's turn to another story trending in true crime. A routine traffic stop ends with bloodshed. Take a look.
He's very compliant. He does have a pistol on him, so we're going to take him out from that side, remove the pistol, and we'll go from there. All right? You know? Yeah, you're good. I appreciate it, man, being very honest.
Oh, yeah, you okay?
Hey. Put the gun down. Put it down. You okay? You got shot in the leg.
Oh my goodness, so what we just saw there was the moment that Jason Arrington was shot in the leg with his own firearm while complying with police. He told police he had a gun. They said that they would remove it for him. They had him put his hands on the car, as you just saw, and while that female officer was taking the gun out of his waistband, she accidentally shoots him with that gun in the leg, according to police. Now, they have terminated her after they did an internal investigation, and we're told that Mr. Arrington is recovering from his injury. So this morning, let's talk about the fact that this shooting even happened the way it happened, and then also the fact that this officer's now been fired. Was that justified? Okay, Tommy Pope, let me start with you, please. For anybody wondering, how in the world does this happen? How in the world does this happen? Would you kind of explain to us what you think occurred when she was taking that gun out?
Sure, I do want to put in a word from our sponsor. Kirk said I was doing defense work now. I want to tell you, I would take this civil case. I don't know about that last civil case that we saw at the top of the hour, but I would take this one. But Julie, you know, firearms have different means of safeties, and I've read the internal investigation, and there was kind of a combination of errors. The victim could not have been more compliant. He told him, he even offered to loosen his belt. because he had it in a holster inside the belt. I used to carry mine when I worked narcotics without a holster. But so the holster, according to whether it's attached to the belt or not, it can create some resistance. The ideal thing would have been to take the whole holster and everything out, but apparently even the video showed, or the internal investigation yielded, that she had maybe 2 fingers inside the trigger guard. And so apparently, I think it looks like it's semi-automatic, but apparently there was one in the chamber. And so that's an additional safety. You always see people on TV racking them in. That's because you don't keep one under the firing pin just for safety. But apparently there was. But so basically when she's trying to tug it out, she is pulling against the trigger. And I think the investigation said that she tugged 2 or 3 times and basically had fingers on the trigger. And, instead of pulling up by the grip, you're pulling up by the trigger, and caused him to get injured.
And Tommy, that was just a perfect explainer. Thank you for that. And just to follow up, please, with firearm safety, one never, ever would want to put their finger on the trigger unless they're ready to shoot. Am I right?
Amen. Amen.
And so now we have this officer who surely was taught that, going through the academy. This officer or deputy, whatever she is, I think she may be a sheriff's deputy, had to have been taught that, and now she's been terminated. Kirk Nurmi, let me go to you on that point. They did this swiftly, this internal investigation and termination. Your thoughts on that after you watch the video and see what happened here?
Well, what an amazing show we're having this morning, Julie. Tommy's now doing criminal defense work and personal injury. We're not even done with the show yet. But no. Yeah, I mean,
Go, Tommy.
The firing is completely justified. I mean, we think about what you just said, right? Not putting pressure on the trigger. The officer must have been trained in that regard. And that's exactly that's going to be part of the opening statement should this civil suit ever get to trial, right? Because it was so grossly negligent. And that's why they were able, I think, to get away with firing her so quickly. The response was quick. They're trying to mitigate the damage here. I bet the city lawyers are already trying to figure out how they can mitigate the damage of this if it goes to a civil trial, because you have a completely compliant individual doing everything he can, and for his kindness, he gets shot in the leg by an officer who's not paying attention to what she's doing. So the ramifications here are going to be civil, and I hope they're very severe against this police department.
Yes, Kirk. Amen. And thank you for reiterating that. Yeah, I'm so focused on watching him. I've seen that video multiple times. I wasn't looking at the back of her jacket. She's not a deputy. She's a police officer, and no longer a police officer, rightfully so after this. This was deplorable. Tommy, maybe this guy will call you. We know you'll take his case. I'm so glad you and Kirk are on the show this morning. You guys are the best. Let's hit a break. When we come back, here's what's still to come on opening statements.
I've never, in the 25 years that I've been in Queen Creek, ever seen this many vehicles and this many problems, not even on Halloween.
We're spotlighting the case of 16-year-old Preston Lord and the brand new Arizona law being put forward in his honor. We'll explain. And could defendant Natalie Cochran tip the scales of justice when she's set to take the stand?
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
Today we stand together not only to mourn his loss, but to reaffirm our collective commitment to seeking justice for Preston.
You may remember the story of 16-year-old Preston Lord. The Arizona boy was brutally attacked by a group of teenagers at a Halloween party. The teens are now facing murder charges, and state lawmakers have now introduced Preston's Law, which will strengthen penalties for group assaults. Ashley Holden from KNXV has more.
Preston was a happy, thriving, ambitious teenager with his whole life ahead of him.
But Preston Lord's life cut short, leaving a Queen Creek Halloween party in 2023.
Had our son had the opportunity to defend himself when he was violently assaulted, he could have lived out all of his hopes and dreams. Instead, he tragically suffered a brutal attack by a group of people.
Following the attack, outcry from the community and a push against teen violence.
Today, along with my colleagues here, I'm proud to introduce Preston's Law.
State Representative Matt Gress, along with Maricopa County Attorney Rachel Mitchell, introducing new legislation.
Under Preston's Law, the swarming component is focused on those who gang up on an individual.
This push for change, first announced in September, would mean if someone commits an assault with 2 or more accomplices, the charge would be a Class 4 felony.
The Class 4 felony, unlike a Class 6 felony, cannot be returned to a misdemeanor. Those are the issues that we have had with the current law.
Thursday, Preston's mom speaking at the press conference, sharing some words about her son and also what they hope to see with this new potential law.
We hope stronger laws can prevent any future devastating acts from occurring, ensuring no one else is robbed of their life, potential, and vitality.
The East Valley community feeling forever changed. Advocate Katie McPherson happy with this first step.
But it's going to still take all of us, right? And I think, as Representative Gress says, we've raised a lot of awareness. We have some education to do.
Representative Gress says Preston's Law will now be heard by the Judiciary Committee. Thursday also introduced another bill which would allow witness names to be redacted.
This legislation addresses a critical issue that arose during the investigation, where some of the teens who cooperated with law enforcement in Preston's case were bullied and threatened for speaking with police.
As for Preston's case, 7 suspects are all charged with murder. The trial date is currently set for July. For Arizona Tonight, I'm Ashley Holden.
All right, so let's dig in and talk about these new things this bill would do if it becomes law. Let me bring in someone who practiced in Arizona for many, many years, Attorney Kirk Nurmi. Okay, Kirk, so the 2 big things, it would create this new category, as you heard, of aggravated assaults in Arizona, where it would include this swarming, when an attacker has 2 or more accomplices who are there present when the attack happens, and then also make this a Class 4 felony, so that it couldn't be reduced in any plea bargaining to a misdemeanor. What do you think these changes will do if this becomes law?
Well, I think, and kudos to Rachel Mitchell right off the bat for motivating this, the county attorney. You won't hear me say kudos to a lot of prosecutors, but I think this is a very good idea. And one of the things to clarify, Julie, the way I understand the law, and of course it's going to go through the committee here, is one of the things that this swarming component does is, as a Class 4 felony, is that sometimes in Arizona, Class 6 felonies, what this activity was before, could be reduced to a misdemeanor, not just through plea bargain, but through successful completion of probation, things like that. It was considered a way to incentivize people to get that felony reduced to a misdemeanor. What this law is saying now is if you engage in this swarming type activity, that is a Class 4 felony. It's not going to be something that somebody can turn into a misdemeanor or what have you. It is going to be a felony on the record of that individual for the rest of their lives, of course, depending on their age with the juvenile issues. But yeah, so this law is certainly going to strengthen the situation. I think the other component, obviously, is the harboring of the identity, at least away from the public. I don't assume that's going to be from defense attorneys because there's constitutional rights obviously at issue. But yeah, again, kudos to Ms. Mitchell. I think this is going to have a good impact on the Arizona community.
Yeah, definitely. And Kirk, thank you for that distinction. This is why we wanted to bring you on. So the prosecutor can't reduce it, and nor can the court if they go through any kind of program. So thank you for that. Tell me, when we've heard from Preston's family, they want accountability here. That's really what they want. They've said, we don't want vengeance here. We just want accountability. Knowing what you know about this case, do you think that is going to happen?
Yeah, I think given the profile of this case, and I think prosecutors obviously are motivated not just to prosecute this case, but to change laws to make the prosecution tougher. I don't think we are going to see accountability be skewed here in favor of anything else, in favor of expediency, what have you. So if the prosecutor is willing to invest time in helping create and change the laws, and knowing Ms. Mitchell a bit, I know that she's going to have prosecutors that are going to be fully invested in prosecuting this case to make sure that accountability occurs. Because, as you said, we're not talking about a vengeance-fueled victim here. We're talking about someone who does want accountability, and I think that the county attorney's office will bring that accountability.
Beautifully said. Kirk Nurmi, thank you for weighing in on this important case. We'll leave it there for now. Stand by, please. We're going to hit a break. When we come back, we'll talk about Natalie Cochran. Could she sway the jury when she takes the stand? Plus, in our next hour.
Not only was the defendant having an affair with Baker, but they were also swinging with other people. Her older daughter, Jessica, who you'll hear from, found Baker sleeping in the defendant's bed.
Returning to California for the celebrity stylist murder trial for Monica Sementilli, we're playing the best unaired moments from opening statements.
The Court TV podcast will return.
Now, for what's tipping the scales of justice, the Ponzi scheme murder trial resumes any minute now, and we're waiting to see if Natalie Cochran will testify today. The defense is expected to call 2 forensic pathologists to try to counter the state's theory that Michael Cochran died by insulin poisoning. The state's medical examiner ruled his cause of death to be undetermined. Years later, his body was exhumed and a second autopsy was performed.
Specifically, what is his manner of death?
Manner of death would be homicide because there's no evidence that he administered insulin himself. People don't accidentally administer insulin to themselves or given.
We object at this time.
So, can emotional testimony from Natalie Cochran win over the jury? What do you think? Let's talk about it. Let's bring in our legal eagles again, Kirk Nurmi and Tommy Pope here. Okay, Tommy, let me start with you, please. What do you think about Ms. Cochran?
I think it's going to be kind of like the Murdoch case we had here, when she's carrying that baggage of the Ponzi scheme. They're going to really drill down, the jury is, on her credibility. And, I've watched her in the courtroom. Of course, the parts I've seen were when her children were testifying. And, you normally get some real emotion from, particularly a mother when the children are on the stand. But she seems to be enjoying her day in court a little bit, knowing full well, like the video we just saw, that the camera's on her. And I think the jury recognizes that, too. So at the end of the day, I feel like the case is weak forensically from what I saw last week with the pathologist. And so I think it's going to be critical. She may not even have to do it, but I think they're anticipating it now, so it'd be difficult to back out of. But again, I think they're going to think she's a liar and a con woman, and she's going to have to overcome that.
Right. Great points, Tommy. I want to play a clip of her daughter. We saw a glimpse of her there as you were speaking. Natalie Cochran's daughter, Nicole, giving testimony about the amount of pills she would watch her dad take in.
He would lay all of his pills out on the counter, and there would be so many of them that they would just sit in a whole circle, and it looked like the size of a dinner plate. And then he would scoop them handfuls at a time into his mouth and use the sink water to drain them down, and then he would take the steroids as well.
How many pills were there, just roughly?
Probably around 40 a day.
Ooh, okay, so the kids were effective, no doubt about it. The kids were very helpful to her, their mother. There's a boy, too, who testified in addition to the daughter we just saw. Kirk Nurmi, tell me, Natalie Cochran, as we know, sat through that testimony, got emotional at times. What do you think she needs to do when she gets up there, if she gets up there, to add to the story that the jury's heard from the kids?
I think she'd be well advised not to get up there. I mean, as Tommy pointed out, the jury's going to think she's a liar and a con woman, and the reason for that is because she's a liar and a con woman, right? I mean, she runs this Ponzi scheme for years. Maybe she has a lot of confidence in her ability to lie. That might very well be the case. But I don't know that she adds anything. I don't know what she can add. As Tommy said, the case is a little forensically weak. I think she can only hurt herself by getting up on the stand and having all these lies brought to light, what have you. And then everything about her story is casting doubt. We just heard, you played a perfect clip there, Julie, of the daughter talking about these number of pills. things like that build reasonable doubt. But when we shift the focus from some of that evidence to the defendant's character and her story, that's not going to be good for the defense. So I think it'd be very unwise of her to take the stand.
Excellent points, Kirk. Yeah, I'm with you. Do we think, why do we think she may be getting on the stand? Let's talk about that. Do we think that maybe she thinks I've just got nothing to lose? I'm in federal prison already. Might as well take my shot. What do you think, Tommy Pope?
I think if she doesn't want time stacked on top of it, she ought to take Kirk's advice and your advice. But I think that, each client's different, each defendant's different. She may think they're going to love her, and believe her. Again, maybe the same qualities that helped her run the Ponzi scheme, she thinks she can pull on that jury. But juries, I think because of the pressure cooker of the courtroom, jurors normally aren't very easily fooled. I think their heightened sensitivity to discerning facts and paying attention that maybe we don't exhibit out in the real world all the time, I think has them dialed in. So I'm with you guys. It may be disappointing. The entertainment value would be in her taking the stand, but I think her case is going her way, and she would probably do more harm than good.
Right. So I was thinking about something, talking with you both about her and thinking about the daughter's testimony about all the pills. Wonder if this could potentially backfire. We know the defense's theory is that Michael Cochran was taking so many supplements and so many steroids for his bodybuilding career that it was the combination of these supplements that led to his death. Whereas we know the state is saying, no, it was this, ridiculously large dose of insulin that she gave him. Kirk, tell me, knowing that she's a pharmacist, as I was listening back to the daughter's testimony, I kept thinking, well, you wonder if any jurors might be thinking to themselves, well, gosh, if you're married to this man who's eating pills for dinner, just plates of pills every day, and you're a pharmacist, wouldn't you be concerned if you love your husband? Wouldn't you want to question it or stop it or do something? Your thoughts on that point, Kirk?
Yeah, you're right. Those are going to be the things that the questions that the jury is going to have in their head, whether they get to the answers to those questions, whether they feel satisfied with their testimony and connect to her. I think that's going to be very difficult because of this Ponzi scheme she ran for so long, right? That connection's not going to be there. But kind of what they have to do, really, I think, is not really, again, if I'm the defense, I'm focusing on the pills and the objective evidence, not her conduct. We're not here, I famously said in the Arias trial, 9 out of 10 days, I don't like Jodi Arias. And to me, what I would say, if I'm the defense attorney, I'd say, listen, I don't care whether you like her or not. Look what was going on here and rely on the expert testimony as it relates to those pills and everything else, as opposed to whether or not you like the defendant.
Yeah, a great point to end on. Kirk Nurmi, Tommy Pope, thank you both so much. Tommy, I know you're able to come back with us for our next hour. We'll look forward to that. Kirk, we'll let you go get on with your day. Thank you for your time and expertise this morning. That's all for this episode of Opening Statements, my friends. I'm your host, Julie Grant, and it's been great being with you. On this show, I am calling out any pants on fire moments in our big trials and true crime stories, and I want you to come along with me. Opening Statements is live every weekday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern on Court TV. Thank you for downloading this episode. Please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. You can watch past shows anytime you like on CourtTV.com.